I got you. I'll tell you what, Stu, can you mute your line unless you're going to talk?
How will I know?
Well, so if you're going to speak, just chime in, but otherwise, that way it won't be an echo. So, we can hear you. Oh, now we can't. Now you're on mute.
Yeah, we won't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't want to mute him. Are we good? We ready to go?
Yeah.
We live or no?
Yes.
Okay, great. New York State Racing, Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law, Section 109A, provides that the Gaming Facility Location Board shall consist of 5 members appointed by the New York State Gaming Commission. The statute further specifically indicates that the board shall be able to undertake its assignments upon the seating of 3 members. 3 members having been appointed by the commission affords the board an ability to establish a quorum and undertake action. This present meeting of the board is now called to order. Establishment of the quorum requires 3 members being present, as I mentioned. Please indicate your presence when your name is called. Kenya Abreu,
Here.
Vicky Beam,
Here.
Stuart Rabinowitz.
You're going to have to come off mute, Stu. Stu, you got to come off mute.
There we go.
There.
Stuart Rabinowitz, I'm present, but virtually because I'm in my home in Long Island because I have COVID and I didn't want to give it to anybody, so.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
We do appreciate that. The record will reflect that a quorum of qualified members are present, thus enabling the transaction of business. Mr. Rabinowitz, as he mentioned, is remote from a properly noticed and open remote meeting location. The record shall note that there is bilateral visual and oral communications between the 2 members here and Mr. Rabinowitz. Before we start, I would like to introduce Brian O'Dwyer, who is the chairman of the New York State Gaming Commission. I think he had a few remarks that he wanted to at least represent to kick the meetings off.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. On behalf of Commissioners Shorenstein, Riano, Crotty, Moschetti, Skernick, and myself, I want to thank the members of the Site Selection Committee for your unpaid services to the citizens of New York. I know the task ahead of you will be incredibly difficult and time-consuming, and your resultant decision will not be without controversy. However, your work and your decision will profoundly affect the lives and communities of countless New Yorkers. We are fortunate to have 3 distinguished and experienced members to serve on the Site Selection Committee, and the commissioners look forward to you being joined by 2 equally distinguished members of the community to bring your work to fruition. This is a competitive process for 3 brand new licenses. Few people will be pleased at the conclusion of what will be a lengthy process. Every decision and action by you will be scrutinized. However, we all know that this process can transform a community with capital investment, direct and construction employment, driving incremental tax reliefs. These projects can bring real change, not to talk about the fact of the number of employees that will be employed. The law requires that any applicants to this RFA first must be approved by a community advisory committee and complete the municipal zoning process before you can evaluate any applications. Therefore, only these projects that have been embraced by the community will ultimately be presented to you for your consideration. As this process unfolds, you'll hear from a variety of communities and stakeholders with varying positions on any proposed subject. Such public comment should be considered by this board. There is no preordained conclusion to this process. Despite the numerous articles and speculation that have understandably appeared in the last few weeks, no one enters into this process with an advantage. I know that each of you will carefully weigh the many factors that will form your decision, including, of course, the effects on the surrounding communities, the provisions therein for employment and training, and the overall revenue that will be granted by the granting of these 3 brand new licenses. And I emphasize 3 brand new licenses. The work ahead will be arduous and demanding, but you already know that. I repeat, the people of New York are profoundly grateful for your time and the talents in accomplishing this task. You know that you can call upon me or my fellow commissioners for any help that we can provide you. And in that regard, I want to specifically thank our hardworking staff who have done such a yeoman's job in a very short period of time in helping draft the RFA for your consideration. But the decision will, of course, ultimately be your own without any interference from any outside source. I'm happy to leave you to your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
The commission has the authority to designate a chair from among sitting board members, but no such designation has yet occurred. Thus, the board should select one member to act as the presiding officer for the purposes of this meeting. Members, would you like to select a presiding officer for the purposes of today's meeting?
I have volunteered, but it's
Yeah,
it's not allowed.
gonna say you.
Contestation.
Vicky. We have volunteered you, Vicky.
I've been voluntold. Okay, so commission staff acting for and on behalf of the board, and we thank them for all of the hard work, have very diligently worked with the board members to develop a request for application document that satisfies the statutory requirements and requires potential applicants to provide documentation and materials necessary to afford the board with an ability to evaluate projects and determine the appropriate responses to forward to the commission for casino license evaluation. The RFA is divided into several component areas. The first is an overview, which lays out the process steps, certain procurement lobbying restrictions, permissible contacts, and walks through the questions and inquiries period. The second section regards application instructions, identifying the style and manner of how the gaming facility location board would like RFA responses to be returned. We anticipate many responses, and conformity to the process will ease the evaluation and comparison between the applications. The third section regards the general information sought from each bidder. This regards such detail as the applicant's structure, ownership, directors, officers, organizational documents, etc. The fourth section regards production of evidence of public support and compliance with zoning requirements. The fifth segment is organized around the statutory criteria. The section asks for proposals, responses, and documentation aligning with the statutory evaluation criteria. The remainder of the document regards for successful bidders post-licensure requirements. I would like to note that the timeline within the RFA includes a return date for the first round of questions due from interested applicants, but all other dates are listed to be announced, other than the date of return for responses, which will be 1 month following the issuance of answers to the second round of bidder questions. The members of the board understand that there are variables beyond their control, namely the number of both round 1 and round 2 questions. Placing an artificial time constraint for response makes little sense. Accordingly, we've chosen not to specify other process dates other than the return of the proposals 4 weeks following the release of the round 2 answers. All other timeline deadlines will be announced when appropriate. The document is now before the board for action. So I'll turn first to the commissioners. Any questions on the request for applications? Stu or Kenya? If not, go
I
ahead.
don't. That's a very good. Did you say Stu or my buddy name?
No, I said Stu, yes.
I'm getting sensitive. I went through the application, we looked carefully at it, I compared it, and the staff was very, very helpful in comparing it to the 2014-15. They tweaked some things that, in my experience, since I served on that, location boards should have been tweaked. They did it in a a thoughtful and efficient manner. And I'm fully supportive of what they have put together. And I have to compliment them on a job well done in the middle of a holiday season. And, I'm sure family members are really ticked off at us.
Thank you.
I echo that. I mean, the staff has been amazing, really. I mean, we got the emails through the holidays. Couldn't believe that you were working on everything. So, thank you so much for doing that in such a short time.
So may I have a motion to adopt the RFA?
So moved.
Second?
And second.
And any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. The motion carries. For awareness, the RFA will be posted as soon as practicable on the websites of the board and of the Gaming Commission. Will you please call the next item?
Certainly. New York State Racing Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law, Section 1306.9 authorizes the Gaming Facility Location Board to promulgate rules and regulations that it deems necessary to carry out its responsibilities. To that regard, the board will from time to time promulgate rules and rule amendments pursuant to the State Administrative Procedures Act. During the 2014 and 2015 request for applications process, the Gaming Facility Location Board saw fit to propose and adopt 3 rules. The first regarded the conduct of public hearings. The second and third regarded minimum capital investment and license fees, respectively. The latter 2 require amendment to reflect the minimum capital investment and the license fees presented in the RFA, which was just adopted.
So for clarity, I'm going to take each rule individually. Members of the commission, any questions regarding the proposal to amend Board Rule 601.2 regarding minimum capital investment of $500 million?
No.
No questions? May I have a motion to propose this rule?
You have
So
a motion.
moved. I'm going to move every motion.
Loves-
Okay.
Yeah.
And you will second.
Second.
Discussion on,
Let me just point out the obvious, that this is a minimum capital
Yes.
investment, and that any applicants are free to submit a higher capital investment in a competitive contest.
Yes.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. The motion carries. Next, members, are there any questions regarding the proposal to amend Board Rule 601.1 regarding the license fee? Also, $500. Any discussion? Also a minimum.
Say that,
A minimum.
on the license fee, that this is higher than any of the license fees set forward in 2014-15 because time has gone by, prices have gone up, communities have evolved, and this we think is a fair amount without trying to distinguish the impossible, which is to take one neighborhood versus another or whatever. So we have a uniform license fee, and we also do not believe it should be any longer than 10 years, which will give the state administrative apparatus and time and development to play out fully before there's a further commitment.
May I have a motion to propose this rule?
So I move.
Second?
That-
Discussion, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? The motion carries. Will you call the final item? Mr.
Certainly. The New York State Department of State requires an individual appropriately designated to sign rulemaking submissions on behalf of any authority, board, commission, or public benefit corporation. In this instance, the board should designate an individual to make these submissions.
May I have a nomination for such duty, for such a duty? Signing all of the necessary forms.
If you'd like, you could just delegate somebody from staff here to do it on your behalf.
Okay,
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
Who would that be?
Kristen Buckley. Kristen Buckley.
Kristen Buckley.
She's the secretary to the commission.
Okay, terrific. She was voluntold also.
She's unaware, isn't she?
Yeah, unaware. Finally, I'd like to publicly indicate that for the purposes of the RFA, the board is now in the restricted period. All individuals interested in discussion of the RFA or RFA procedure should contact the commission secretary, Kristen Buckley, not any individual member of the board. Lee, I'm aware that Ms. Buckley's contact information is explicitly listed in the RFA. Will it also be readily available in commission and board websites?
Yes, we'll make sure it's so.
Great, thank you. All right, that concludes today's published agenda. Do any members have any additional items that they'd like to present for consideration? Hearing none,
And out of this moment.
this meeting of the Gaming Facility Location Board is adjourned.
Thank you.
may I give it a great job, Pete?
Feel better.